Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Today is a glorious day on Purple Daily. It is our, I think, second annual, maybe third. We'd have to go back in the archives. But it is our annual ranking of the top 20 current Vikings players, according to me this year. Mm-hmm. I have the top 20 current Vikings ranked, and we will start at number 20 and work our way all the way to number 1 and go through this exercise. A lot of changes because think about the quarterback situation changing. Daniil Hunter was a top 5 player on this list last year.
Changes. And guys have clearly moved up. I think you did this last May. I think I did it. Did I do it right before the season or after the season? I think I took a shot at this, but I think you kicked it off, and I think this is the second one for you.
We're gonna have a bunch of things to rank, I feel like, between now and training camp. We did like weeks of rankings last year. We can come up with some other fun ones to do this year. And yeah, you can take a crack at it. But now that free agency is over and the draft, I will say that I did not include any of the current draft picks. Like I already saw I teased this on Twitter, and some people were wondering, do you have J.J. McCarthy in the top 20? Well, certainly not after Judd's camp notes from Friday's rookie minicamp.
Hold on a second. I gave him arm strength credit. I gave him, you know what? That's not fair.
Total learning environment.
Exactly right. A learning environment, but he's not going to start, I don't think. And so I think it's fair also that he has to earn his way into the top 20.
Yes, he will have to earn his way in. So we'll go through this. A shout out to our friends at Ugly Deck, though, Judd. It's very much deck season in and around the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota here.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Because springtime does mean deck time. Look at those gorgeous ducks. Those decks come to you courtesy of our friends at uglydeck.com who do such a great job. And here's the thing. Options with Ugly Deck. How so? Install or DIY. Uglydeck.com offering up to $1,000 off for a limited time. With install, you're going to get the best carpenters. Sports Dad, more of an install guy. Hey, Ugly Deck, do this for me. DIYers, you get the best coaches to help you from start to finish the entire process. Ugly Deck is on a mission to do one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that is rid the world of all of those ugly decks. And my God, there's a lot to get rid of. Uglydeck.com. Setting appointments now at their Shakopee Deck Design Showroom. Check out uglydeck.com. And by the way, if you do, make sure that you tell them the guys from Purple Daily and Score North said, we want to rid the world of ugly decks just like they do.
That's the mission. Win a Super Bowl before we die and rid the world of ugly decks. If we can check those two boxes, yep. So before I dive in and give you these top 20 current Vikings, you guys feel free to fill in and jump in, argue, disagree, praise me for a beautiful ranking if you really like one of them.
Yeah, we're going to praise. The praise is just, it's going to be endless.
Hopefully, yeah. I need that validation. But I will say the hardest part about this was, now that Daniil Hunter is gone, figuring out who the number 1 defensive player is on this current defense and where to rank that number 1 defensive player.
That's a good point.
That was the biggest trip up for me.
Yeah. And at this point in time, that's a complete, for the most part, I think, prognostication, right? Like, I don't think that there is. I'm curious who you have, because I'm trying to think if there's like one clear-cut guy. If Harrison Smith was still, if this is 5 years back, then I think, yeah, okay. If he was not that guy last year, he ascends, but he's not that player now. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm curious who you have. I don't even know. I would have to think long and hard about who I would put as the top defensive player right now.
Yeah. I think it's going to shock you a little bit.
Just an on-air production meeting with the graphic that's on our YouTube screen for everyone to see, which is awesome, from our great graphics department. Yeah. Is this going to go like one at a time? A player is going to flash, or is this like in 5 bunches? And I'm curious on how this works.
It's going to flash one at a time if my graphics department did this the right way.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
We'll
no, if we weren't, I was going to say let's only pop it on every 5 times. But if the graphics department went to hard work on this, then we need to show off.
Well, we're not going to spoil. We're not going to spoil this.
I haven't test-driven this live yet, so this could train wreck. But I think it's like the pigskin pecking order, where we start with like 10 and work our way.
Okay, cool.
So if I'm going to hit the next button here, and it should show us who the 20th ranked player is in my top 20 Vikings currently. Okay. And there he is.
Sam Darnold.
Quarterback Sam Darnold comes in as the 20th ranked Viking. Now, this might already cause some consternation and pushback from the audience, from you guys. Like, wait a second, Sam Darnold's a bust. He's a backup. He's here basically to just make sure that J.J. McCarthy doesn't crash the car during training camp. But Sam Darnold is highly talented. He showed some nice flashes with Carolina starting a half season in 2022. NFL.com has him as the second highest graded quarterback prospect coming out of college of the last 10 years, behind only Joe Burrow. And some of this is projection. I am projecting that in this offensive system under Kevin O'Connell's tutelage, throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, maybe TJ Hawkinson if he's back for week 1. And it sounds like Darnold is going to take the first team reps. He's going to start week 1, it looks like. So I'm projecting a little bit here with Sam Darnold, but he is the 20th ranked player on the current Vikings roster.
I actually thought that you might have him like as high as 15.
Oh, really?
So this does not shock me. Well, I mean, it's 20 players. Like if you go through this entire roster, here's my question. Are there 20 players better than your starting or your expected starting quarterback?
The fact that it's kind of debatable is, shows you where they're at right now. They're trying to make something out of that position.
You should have had McCarthy, Mackey. You wanted a Mackey.
Maybe he gets in there if he takes over some of the first team. He's got to take some first team reps at some point in practice first, right?
And you know what? You're dialing down the pressure. It's clear O'Connell called you, okay? So
don't show J.J. McCarthy at Target Center during the Wolves game.
Don't put him
in your top 20.
I mean, that's fine. Whatever.
Okay, number 19. Garrett Bradbury still cracks the list here. The starting center. Okay. I think the best thing you can say about Bradbury is that he's not a train wreck anymore like he maybe was at times his first 3 seasons in the NFL. Last year, he was out of 40 qualified centers in the league, according to Pro Football Focus. Garrett Bradbury was 24th out of 40. So at best, he's kind of a slightly above average starting center. At worst, he's banged up. He struggles with, I guess they would say he doesn't have enough sand in his pants to hold strong in pass protection.
Yep.
Durability is a question, but Bradbury, he's not as much of a liability as he was a couple years ago, I would say. So he's 19th.
And I would say the thing with him is the reason why I think to his last day with the Vikings, there's going to be criticism, and probably rightfully so, is, and this is not his fault, he never should have been a first round pick.
Yeah.
Like I think that stigma, like that's, if Garrett Bradbury had been like a 3rd round pick, I think you'd be like, well, he's not great, but he was a 3rd round pick, right?
Yeah.
But I think the drafting for need at center, which you probably should not do, I think that coupled with the beginning of his career being a disappointment, always is going to have, there's always going to be a certain feeling about him being a bust because of that.
Yep, I agree with that. You're right. If he was like a 5th, like John Sullivan was a 5th or a 6th round pick, and and by the way, John Sullivan was a much better starting center 10, 15 years ago than Bradbury is.
Right.
But it was partially, look, he outperformed expectations because he was a day 3 pick or whatever. Okay, number 18. The Vikings' new veteran, potentially starting outside cornerback Shaq Griffin cracks the list. This is his 4th team since 2022. By almost any measurement, he's a league average, solid veteran cornerback who's probably on the wrong side of the NFL age curve at this point. But he's going to be fighting for an outside starting cornerback job with the Vikings. So Shaq Griffin, number 18.
All right.
May or may not have cost the Vikings a 3rd round comp pick, depending on which reports you believe.
And I did see the Vikings are bringing in another free agent cornerback for a visit, Jerry Jacobs, who spent 3 seasons with the Lions. So he's also going to be visiting the Vikings this week. But Shaq at one point was a really, really good cornerback. It is, I don't know, it's kind of funny that, Garrett Bradbury's been here and Vikings fans are familiar, but some like slappy cornerback who obviously makes a bigger impact is already higher than Garrett Bradbury. It's also kind of funny.
Yeah, at least according to me.
According to Mackey.
Anyways. Yeah, according to me. But they bring in old Jair's coming in from the Lions. Maybe they just get some intel from the Lions playbook or something on that visit. Number 17, Ty Chandler. So I thought about putting him higher because I stand for Ty Chandler, but when you start to look at the rest of the list, it's hard to get him a whole lot higher than 17th. He played starter reps like for a month and a half down the stretch. But here's what I love about Ty Chandler. He's much more of a burst running back than Alexander Madison was. I mean, the guy ran like a 4.35 40-yard dash coming out of college. 4.5 yards per attempt, which was tied with Bijan Robinson, Aaron Jones, and Breece Hall in the NFL last year. So, like, you give him the ball and you have a chance to break a 15 or 20-yard run, and the Vikings have lacked that in the absence of peak Dalvin Cook for the last couple years.
I think the big question here as well is what is the faith of the coaching staff in Ty Chandler? Because like we've seen enough from an athletic perspective that I think the fan base, and I'm sure conversely some people with the Vikings are very intrigued here, but there's definitely some things that we probably don't pick up on that the coaching staff does that they hold against him. And so I would like this to be the year that he really gets at least a continuation of the chance that he got at the end of last year. Because it felt like it took a long time for the coaching staff to be like, Madison's really not cutting it. Like we didn't think, and look, people make mistakes, but he's really not cutting it. That took a long, long time. So I think Ty Chandler, by this time next year, could be way up that list or totally off it because he's a former Viking by that point.
Wait. Oh, you're saying
I
see what you're so you're saying the variance, like he could
yes,
be like
the variance
12
could be
or,
like exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like
okay.
he could be top 10 or just completely gone.
I got you. I read you. Number 16, Josh Oliver. The Vikings spent $7 million a year on him in free agency last offseason. Some people were wondering why would they spend a bunch of money on a backup tight end who doesn't really catch passes. Well, he remains one of the best run blocking tight ends in the NFL. And he actually had a career high in pass receptions and yards. It was like 20 or 25 receptions, but he can catch some passes. He's an unsung run blocking hero, and he comes in 16th on this list. A good, serviceable player in the run game for the Vikings, and even as a big red zone target. A couple touchdowns for him last year.
If Josh Oliver could be completely truthful with Kevin O'Connell, I would have liked to have thought that before the players went into the offseason, that Josh went into Kevin's office and sat down and said, hey, coach, we going to run the ball more next season? Because I loved this move. Like, look, he is a totally different player than TJ Hawkinson, which is outstanding. But if you think about it, last year, the Vikings' commitment to the run was very much, it came and it sort of went and then it went again. And so I think that as far as Josh Oliver's skill set, we still have not seen it on display completely. Yeah. I would like to think that in 2024, there's going to be far more of a commitment to the run game. And it might not be a sexy position, but it's going to allow Josh Oliver to do a lot more.
It is weird that you would prioritize a tight end that blocks primarily as one of your key free agent signings 2 off seasons ago, and then ditch the run game as often as they did. I mean, even in the games where it was like Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs, they're just chucking the ball down the field and throwing the ball 35 times.
Lovely.
I'm seeing some tweets from last year. I just did a quick Score North top 20 Vikings list from last year. Oliver last season, it looks like we didn't do a graphic either, so I'm just going solely off of video clips that we put out from the list. Josh Oliver was 14th on your list for top 20 Vikings in going into 2023. By the way, you did this in June, early June of last year.
There we go. I can pull up last year's list here too. I do have it in my notes. So he's gone down 2 slots from last year. Yeah. So let's get to the top 15 here, boys.
All right.
Starting with Mackay Blackman. Cracking the top 15. Mm-hmm. So Mackay Blackman came in as a rookie last year. Didn't play a whole lot early in the season. And there was a couple lowlights for sure that people circled. But at the end of the season, he winds up 31st out of 133 qualified cornerbacks in the PFF rankings. Mm-hmm. Opposing quarterbacks had an 87.8 passer rating when targeting Mekhi Blackman, which is about the same passer rating as Justin Fields or Gardner Minshew. So he turns opposing quarterbacks, and the scheme does too, into Gardner Minshew. So he's not getting carved up. And my favorite Mekhi Blackman stat from last year, 0 missed tackles.
Oh, that's Trey Waynes like right there.
0 missed tackles.
Trey Waynes was a great tackler too. Yep.
And he played like 450 or 500 snaps. He had like 40 tackles, 0 missed tackles. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Of that young core group of cornerbacks, this guy, I think, has the best chance to be really good.
Yeah.
I really like him.
Yeah, he's got a little dog in him, as they say.
And
right?
don't forget, too, he was selected in a Brian Flores draft.
Yeah, Brian Flores probably had a lot to do with.
Yeah.
So,
handpicked him. Yeah, that's a good one.
Number 14, old reliable Harrison Phillips. Now, let's see. Where did I have Harrison Phillips last year? Let's just check real quick.
Higher, I bet.
Last year, he was 9th, so he was top 10
Yep.
going into last year's rankings.
Yep.
And some of it's not really his fault, the fall here, because the Vikings asked him to be, and I'm going to get into the football weeds with you guys, much more of an A-gap defensive lineman.
Not his. No.
Which is like closest to the ball, right?
Yeah.
And he's a big dude, but he's not your like 325, 330 pound A-gap filling nose tackle, right? So they've kind of asked him to do some different things over the last year. Now, he did have a career high in snaps last year, so he showed durability, a career high in stop tackles. So he, well, I take that back. I don't know if he had a career high in snaps, but just kind of a lone ranger in the middle of a defensive front that doesn't have a lot of guys that aren't Jags, you know?
He is cast in a starring role in which he is best suited to be a supporting actor.
Yeah, and he's a really good supporting actor.
Oh yeah, he's very good. But I think you're right. I think it's Brian Flores was doing his best possible, but this is probably one guy that he had to use in a spot and couldn't deviate from that. He can play, but certainly not best suited for.
Yeah. Okay, number 13, the other Harrison Smith.
All right.
Comes in here. So Harrison Smith. Now, he did have a career high in snaps and stop tackles last year. I was getting my Harrisons mixed up in my notes here, but some erosion. He's definitely not the same player at age 34 as he was when he was 26, 27. You know, like he had the most missed tackles of his career, for instance, and he had the lowest PFF grade that he has had since 2013, but still a really good, savvy veteran. He was asked to rush the passer like 90 or 100 times, as opposed to the Ed Donatel season where he's just, Harrison, just sit back there, play center field, and don't do Harrison Smith things. The fact that Brian Flores asked him to do more Harrison Smith things was probably refreshing for his football soul. So he comes in 13th at age 35 this season.
His fall off in actual performance because of age, I think, is offset by the fact that he is now essentially a coach on the field. Like he can do, like, this guy's never going to be surprised. There's nothing he can't do as far as getting guys set, as far as roaming and basically doing different things. So I do think that while there has been a definite drop off in performance, the savvy that Harrison Smith still has makes up for a lot of that problem.
Yeah, he is that kind of pseudo coach on the field. And I mean, he's playing a position to, you know, when he's been as good as he has at safety, like that position, you can kind of gradually still grace into your later years in the NFL. But he is definitely still a really effective player. It's kind of a shame that Ed Donatel honestly wasted a year of him playing like out of position, because last year he was still fine. But I mean, he basically just had like a waived season 2 years ago with Ed Donatel because he had to completely change the scheme. It just wasn't what Harrison Smith does well either.
It's weird. I always hate when coordinators come in. They're like, this is my scheme, my system, and you will. It's like, wait, you're coming into this defense. You have Harrison Smith, who does Harrison Smith things, and you're going to tell him, no, in my system, you do Ed Donatel things.
Yeah.
You do Donashell things.
KOC got bamboozled. No two ways about it. You were bamboozled.
But he moved off him after 1 year. That's all you can ask for. Okay, number 12, Cam Bynum.
Yep.
Cam Bynum, just a good, reliable starting safety at this point in his career. I don't think he's spectacular at anything in particular. He's fine in coverage. He actually led all safeties in the NFL in tackles. He's top third in the league among safeties in PFF grade. He had the highest PFF grade of the safeties, of these two anyways. We'll get to the other one that's kind of a safety, not really, later in the rankings. But Cam Bynum has carved out a nice 2 or 3 seasons here, and he looks like he's going to be here for a minute.
Yeah, he has turned himself into an incredible career. I mean, just a later round pick that, again, was kind of eased into this by having Harrison Smith to kind of lean on and not have to, be the man on that position necessarily. And he's turned into, like, I think a very likable dude. Like, people really like him. He's very a fan. He's kind of like become slowly a fan favorite too. He's had a hell of a career, and yeah, kind of now a linchpin, as you said, trying to rank the best defensive players on this list is tough, and he now all of a sudden is probably one of the 3 best players on this defense.
Shout out to Rick Spielman too. 2021, Rick's last draft, 4th round pick. As I recall, he was a cornerback in college and transitioned to safety. But yeah, this is one that I like too, because I think he was drafted in part because he's damn smart. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about the safeties here, Harrison Smith, a veteran who has seen basically everything and has always been a really intelligent player, Bynum and Metellus, like that is some flat out football brain power back there.
Yep, absolutely. And then rounding out the first chunk of our top 20 current Vikings here, according to me anyways, number 11, Ivan Pace Jr. From going undrafted a year ago to being 11th on this list. I mean, that's one of the best UDFAs in franchise history, right? I mean, it's like John Randall is probably the George Washington on the Mount Rushmore, at least in the last 30 years. And then 35 years. And then you got Adam Thielen's on that list. If Ivan Pace Jr. keeps playing like he did last year, it's going to go down as one of the great UDFAs in franchise history. 89 qualified linebackers, according to Pro Football Focus. He was 17th in PFF grade. Excellent in coverage, by the way, which was kind of a question coming in. Is he a straight-ahead linebacker? Can he go back in coverage? He lacks some size. Can he cover tight ends? How about this? Ivan Pace Jr. was targeted 37 times in coverage. The longest reception he allowed was 13 yards. Wow. So that's a testament to coverage and tackling. In fact, of all the linebackers, 89 qualified linebackers, he had the lowest yards per reception allowed at under 6 yards per attempt when quarterbacks were targeting him. So again, like I said, 13 yards was the longest reception he allowed in coverage, and we saw him as a straight-ahead run stopper, pressures. He wasn't perfect by any means, but he showed major flashes, and he comes in 11th on this list.
So you're saying he can flip his hips?
He can definitely
flip those hips.
Oily hips.
You know what, too? Ivan Pace Jr., and this is a long list, is the latest example of why measurables should not make your determination of, well, he's a little bit too small.
If he looks incredible on tape and produces at the level he did at Cincinnati, which check and check.
Yes.
How could you then be like, well, but he's like 10 pounds lighter than me. It's like, he's a football player, man. Like,
and let's say you draft him. So this kid was not drafted, as we just discussed. Let's say you take him in the 5th round. Okay. Are you really going to say he didn't work out? That's a missed 5th round pick. What a terrible tragedy this is for our franchise.
Yeah. But however it wound up working out,
great.
They landed him. They gave him a nice little chunk of UDFA money, and here he is. So, so rounding out 20 through 11, Sam Darnold, Garrett Bradbury, Shaq Griffin, Ty Chandler, Josh Oliver from 20 to 16. 15 through 11, Mekhi Blackman, Harrison Phillips, Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Ivan Pace Jr. Mm-hmm. We will get to the top 10 current Vikings in just a moment after we shout out our friends at Aquaside here, Declan. It's lake season. It's dock season, baby.
It is dock season. The weather's heated up here, and I've seen some people get their docks in already on Twitter. They're starting that cabin season a little early, and if you were neglecting taking care of that lake for the last few summers and you want to take care of it now, you even just want to figure out What's been at the bottom of this lake? Can I get rid of it? Our friends at Aquaside can help you take care of that. You can go to aquaside.com for the Aquaside pellets, which are safe products too. These aren't just some willy-nilly products. These are registered with the EPA and DNR. Shipping is also free at the Aquaside's website. Go to aquaside.com to learn more.
A shout out as well to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. Now, as a business owner, and there are many business owners, we have met many of you who are Purple Daily consumers. You understand the importance of protecting your reputation, your workplace, your employees, and your financial assets. And the team at Federated is ready to help your team by creating a custom lineup of industry-specific coverages and risk management services to help you stay on top of your game. Contact your local Federated rep for more information, or go to federatedinsurance.com. Federated Insurance, where it's our business to protect yours. Okay, boys, it's time to unveil the top 10 current Minnesota Vikings, according to Ol Macadac.
I feel like the brawls might start now, so let's go.
Yeah.
I think so, too. I mean, Declan said in passing that Cam Bynum is a top 3 defender on this defense, and these rankings will not reflect that, but that's the debate.
Right. Yeah.
Starting with number 10, Blake Cashman.
Interesting.
When you do a deeper dive on Blake Cashman,
Wow. Yeah.
so he was a 5th-round pick by the Jets in 2019. They had him playing a bunch of snaps. He played like 400 or 500 snaps his rookie year. He did not really go well as a starter. So he was kind of cast away to special teams the next few years. Really didn't see him a lot on the field in the main defense from 2020 through 2022 Jets, and then first year with the Texans. But last year with the Texans, he started 13 games. And maybe I'm putting too much faith in the PFF rankings here, but Pro Football Focus had Blake Cashman as the 5th best linebacker in the NFL out of 89 qualified linebackers. Rock solid in coverage. When you ask him to pressure the quarterback, he was, top 25, 75th, 80th percentile in pressure rate. So just like an all-around really good linebacker in Blake Cashman. So I have him a notch above Ivan Pace, a little bit more experience. PFF likes him more. We're going to get to watch him play every single snap now going forward, see what he looks like in training camp, etc. So I have Blake Cashman 10th on this list.
Probably a credit to what D'Amico Ryans was able to do in that first year with Houston. And I don't know if Houston was like as blitz happy. No one is as blitz happy as Brian Flores. But when you put him with good coordinators, like we saw with Blake last year with D'Amico Ryans, or a good head coach, I should say, in D'Amico Ryans, now he goes with Brian Flores. I do think there is an uptick here, and maybe he just needed to blossom and learn things a little bit behind the scenes before becoming, an every type of down player. I am excited to watch him, and I know a lot of Vikings fans are obviously, especially if you're a Gopher fan. So this would be pretty cool.
Yeah, with Pace and Cashman, I think consistency is going to be the key thing. Can they carry on what they both did last season? The other thing that's interesting, though, is I honestly think if this defense starts to morph into personnel-wise what Brian Flores wants more, the blitz happiness is going to dissipate quite a bit. I think if he could start to get pressure with the guy, I mean, keep in mind, you had Danielle Hunter. Okay, that's great. And then who else sometimes, right?
Yeah,
so
you're
like,
right.
So like now if let's just say for the sake of conversation that I've got Van Ginkel, Grenard, and Turner out there, okay? And I can generate pressure with 3. And I can generate pressure with 3. Now I don't have to blitz. Now I can probably do more Brian Flores type of things. I think Flores was trying to plug a dike with his finger last year.
He didn't want to blitz at like an historic rate.
And
right?
if you look at it, well, and if you look, there were definitely times that they blitzed a ton, but then there were times where they would drop a bunch of guys. I think he was trying to confuse opponents because the personnel was not that good. So I actually think Cashman might be a very important piece of the new look Flores defense, which from a personnel standpoint is going to go far more to what he probably envisioned.
Another guy that will likely thrive in the Brian Flores defense, and this is where you guys are probably going to fight me again. I have Jonathan Grenard, number 9, on my top 20 current Vikings list.
I would say this might be low.
That's where I think the argument's going to be. So he's a former 3rd-round pick, and last year was his breakout season in Houston. Now, he was playing alongside Will Anderson Jr., who is the main pass rusher on that team. Grenard's kind of being brought in to be the main pass rusher on this team. It's a different level of pressure there. Big contract. He had the 14 sacks last year, by far a career high. Out of 122 qualified edge rushers, Grenard was 32nd out of 122. He's a little suspect in the run game, misses a lot of tackles, had one of the highest missed tackle rates. But he's 26 years old, still has room to improve and grow. But he is a pass rushing specialist and master. Needs to get better in the running game. But he got home a lot, right? 14 sacks. You're not just getting pressures, you're getting home. How repeatable is that going forward? This is a great defensive system for him to be unleashed in.
May I suggest that it might not be an exact parallel, but while Grenard certainly is a big name because of what the Vikings paid him, I think we're going to spend, well, not we, the Vikings are going to spend as much time as possible turning down the pressure on McCarthy. I think Dallas Turner is probably being counted on for pretty big things pretty quickly. Like, you traded up, 17th pick. He's not going to be, almost certainly, because this was a top 5 pick, Will Anderson Jr., but I think he is going to be a potential immediate impact guy. So I wonder if his presence is going to allow, and to a certain extent, Van Ginkel as well, but it's going to allow Grenard to go back to an environment where he can thrive, as you just said, as a pass rush specialist. And the Turner will be more of the jack of all trades. So it's not like a Grenard for Hunter exchange exactly. But I mean, I do love, this is what I liked about the trade. I think if Turner works out as expected, I think the pressure on him in year one is going to be fair, because I think he's going to play a ton as well.
Yeah. Let's keep it rocking here. Number 8 on the top 20 current Vikings, Josh Metellus.
Oh, this is nice.
Making a big jump into the top 10. So just the ultimate Swiss Army knife in this defense. They're essentially asking Josh Metellus to play a made-up position, right? Like, he's a safety, but he really isn't a safety. He's a linebacker who
Played 12
also
spots last year.
Yeah, like he's just a chess. We called him the queen on the chessboard. You can literally just move him anywhere you want to. He led all safeties. I use safeties in air quotes because he is classified as a safety, but he led all safeties in quarterback pressures, quarterback hurries. But a guy that they had him playing at all 3 levels of the defense: traditional safety, coverage, linebacker, rushing the passer, covering tight ends, like all sorts of things. So Josh Metellus, number 8.
Here's the question to me about Josh Metellus in 2024. What's his role now? Same type of thing?
Yeah, because Cashman's here to be
Yeah,
reliable.
and I mean, Metellus was essentially, in a lot of ways, the guy that saved the day last season, because they literally were like, what are we going to do? And Flores, to his, football credit, mad scientist, said, I got an idea. Well, now they've got more guys. So is Metellus in that same role? Is he in a different role? The other thing that Flores is probably cognizant of is you have now had offensive minds and coordinators sitting in film rooms for months breaking down Vikings film, right? So it's like, okay, they're probably going through everything Metellus did. So Brian Flores' counter is going to have to be to come back with something different. I think this is one of the most interesting things, because Metellus proved he should play a huge role. I just don't know it's going to be the same role. And I could see his snap count dropping a bit unless other guys start to struggle.
Yeah, he's turned himself into an incredible player. And yeah, just the versatility, the Swiss Army knife. Did Brian Flores dub him as queen on the chessboard, or
no?
Did we?
This show did.
This show did, right?
Don't forget, it was if I recall correctly, Judd's OTA notes that broke this wide open.
It was.
I'm like, this guy is doing a ton. To which we were told by some, oh, it's OTAs. They're having fun out there. They're all just having a lot of fun. I'm like, dude, this guy is moving around.
You called it.
And I think
I was
Phil
trying to find, and
that.
I don't know if it was the Vikings Twitter, if it was Josh's Twitter. I swear I saw a formal or an official Twitter account call Josh Metellus within the last couple weeks the queen on the chessboard. I'm having major deja vu, and I'm trying to find it, because that's where I was like, didn't we? And I remember when I saw it, I was like, didn't we dub him that? I wasn't upset someone ripped it off, but I was like, oh, the queen on the chessboard. I thought that was our thing. So I was confused.
Well, imitation
is
the sincerest
yes, it is.
form of flattery.
Yes, it is.
You are welcome to steal
Anything
our
like.
tagline for Josh Metellus. So, okay, number 7, top 20 current Vikings. Jordan Addison, wide receiver extraordinaire. 70 catches for 911 yards and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. That's one of the most, I guess I should have looked up how close was that to the rookie touchdown round. Randy Moss had like 18 as a rookie back in 98, but double-digit touchdowns as a rookie. And here's my favorite Jordan Addison statistic. 60% of his targets were 10-plus yards past the line of scrimmage. 20% were 20-plus yards past the line of scrimmage. So just you're looking for a guy to stretch the field, somebody to be opposite Justin Jefferson that you can rely on 10, 15, 20, 30 yards down the field to make a play. He proved he could do that as a rookie in year 1.
And you can say, well, he benefited from the presence of Justin Jefferson, which is partially true.
Course.
But remember, but remember, Justin Jefferson missed, if I'm not mistaken, 7 games.
It's true. Yeah.
Like this kid from the first day looked like he belonged.
Yep. And by the way, you don't have to apologize for being an awesome number 2 receiver that plays well off of the opportunities that Justin Jefferson gives you, right? Like, and he took advantage. Almost
and with Jefferson being gone, though, what impressed me was he maintained.
Yep. And we'll see what happens. Sometimes it takes receivers like into year 2, year 3 to really thrive. And he already did in year 1. So we'll see what year 2 holds for him. And then number 6, as we creep our way into the top 5, former Packers running back, Aaron Jones. So 29 years old, but aging very gracefully. We've gone over in previous episodes, just the workload he hasn't had one of those like Zeke Elliott, Derrick Henry, where you're touching the ball 350 times.
Sure.
When you're touching the ball in a timeshare fashion like he has, you're more likely to be productive as you get to be 28, 29, 30 years old. So if you look at Aaron Jones the last few seasons, let's start with last year. 584 rushing yards in the final 5 games, including the 2 playoff games. Averaged nearly 6 yards per carry down the stretch in the biggest games. You got to win these games to get in the playoffs, and then they win that road playoff game, and he was excellent. And let's just take the last 3 years as he's gotten into his late 20s. So the last 3 years for Aaron Jones. Tied for 4th in the NFL with Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor in yards per attempt, and tied for 3rd in yards after contact per rush. So every indication is that he is playing at a really high level still. Now, you don't have like 5 years left of him. This might, he's right up along that age cliff. But Aaron Jones has been really, really good into his late 20s, and he comes in 6th on my list here.
He is a very, very important, I think, piece here for Kevin O'Connell in the offense to figure out this running game. I mean, that's just been a knock on Kevin O'Connell. And I think Aaron Jones, someone who had kind of made that when he was in the Packers offense, that Packers offense took a significant step forward, whether it was Jordan Love or obviously with Aaron Rodgers. And I think he's kind of the missing piece here. He just hasn't had Kevin O'Connell that is a legitimate running back like this. And even though sometimes those miles in the tank go away quick, I think there's still enough miles to make this worthwhile in the Vikings offense. And I'm excited to see how KLC uses them.
The only thing that concerns me a bit is he did miss five games or 6 games last year. And so I hope he's not starting to go down that path of being banged up and not being able to play. Mm-hmm. What intrigues me is his ability to catch football. The ability to catch the football to me becomes huge, especially because we do not know when TJ Hawkinson is going to return. And so I think one of the most important things that a tight end or a running back who can catch can provide is a safety valve, because while we don't love checkdowns here, we also know that sometimes they do have to be used, especially to try and extend a drive. So if he can, and he did play, to be fair, he played in all 17 games in the regular season 2 years ago. So if he can return to being a little bit more durable, I do think that his ability to catch could be extremely important.
Before we get to our top 5 current Vikings here, and there is still one defensive player left as well. The top defensive player on the team has not been unveiled yet. Let's talk about our friends at Finch Home Solutions here, Judd.
Yeah, so if you are talking about the top 20 electricians in town, you're talking about who would you call to come to your house, and as you see those beautiful Finch trucks that, yes, look extremely familiar with their colors, come over to your house to do work, Finch Home Solutions is going to be 1 through 20. That's exactly right. They take up every single spot. Why? Because they are simply the best in town and can handle all the electrical needs, big or small. We're talking about car chargers being installed, panel replacement, indoor lights, flickering lights. You know what? Let's say for springtime, you're installing a hot tub. Well, there's a lot of work to be done from an electronic standpoint with hot tubs. Finch Home Solutions can take care of that as well. Cody and his team, anything that you might need, fast, courteous, and efficient. 612-357-2604, or probably more easily, just check out finchhomesolutions.com. finchhomesolutions.com. That is the winning play.
And a shout out to our friends at Dennis Kirk. Thank you to Dennis Kirk for partnering with us here across the Score North network of podcasts and for helping all you Ragnars out there for riding season. Motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, dirt bikes, and 185,000 parts, apparel, and accessories for all the top brands. Same-day shipping on orders placed before 8 p.m. Central. Free shipping on orders over $89. Financing plans available. A ride finder tool. All sorts of amazing things for you riders at DennisKirk.com. That's DennisKirk.com. Okay. Oh, the drama building. Number 5, the 5th best current Viking. And again, some projection involved here. Andrew Van Ginkel.
What?
Huh.
Declan's
Explain.
head almost popped off his body.
I need
Judge just gave me a huh.
I need an explanation.
I think Andrew Van Ginkel is going to be the one that benefits the most playing in this system with Brian Flores. First of all, he was incredible with Miami last year. But he's another Swiss Army knife player. We talk about the versatility needed to play in this system. Josh Metellus can play everywhere. We talk about queen on the chessboard, right? So Andrew Van Ginkel is classified as an edge rusher, but he also dropped back into coverage 147 times last year. So they trust him as a coverage linebacker and as a push-ahead pass-rushing edge guy. Among 122 qualified edge rushers last year, Van Ginkel ranked 8th out of 122 according to PFF. He was tied for 10th in pass rush win rate, ahead of TJ Watt, Joey Bosa, Daniil Hunter, and Max Crosby. So is he out there 1,000 snaps like Daniil Hunter? So, we'll see about workload. But what he was asked to do in Miami as a Swiss Army knife, go back into coverage 150 times, rush the passer, and be tied for 10th in pass rush win rate behind some of the best players in the NFL. He was tied with Khalil Mack. And again, ahead of TJ Watt, Joey Bosa, Daniil Hunter, and Max Crosby. Right now, Andrew Van Ginkel is a better overall player than Jonathan Grenard. Now, Grenard is 2 or 3 years younger. And in terms of just like straight up pass rush ability, I think the Vikings, they obviously gave him a lot of money and they want him to go get 14 sacks again. But I think you're going to find, once we watch Andrew Van Ginkel at training camp and once we get in 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season, he is a perfect piece for Brian Flores here.
I am surprised. I thought he would be in your 6 through 10. So, I mean, this is not craziness, but I personally, if I was doing this, which perhaps I will one day, who knows? I would put Jordan Addison at 5 and Van Ginkel at 7.
At your own peril, Zolgad.
Well, Jordan Addison's a pretty damn good player. But anyway, this shocked me at first. I then calmed down. I took a deep breath and heard your case. Yeah. So I would have said 6 through 10, but I am curious to see also how Van Ginkel, Grenard, and Turner, what's the roles there and how are they used? Because I think you bring up a fair point, which is, Josh Metellus is 8 because they found a way to use him. So
the Football Whisperer gave you a heads up about Brian Asamoah. The Football Whisperer is telling you on the other side of that coin.
Too. Yeah, you did.
Gave you a heads up on Madison. Yeah. The Football Whisperer is telling you about Andrew Van Ginkel.
I calmed myself down. So at first I was like, oh, are you kidding? And then I calmed down.
I just got to the point where once he had Grenard and Metellus, I was like, oh, he's just not going to be on the top 20 list, which I wouldn't have fought you on. I wouldn't have fought you on at this point.
You don't think Andrew Van Ginkel is one of the 20 best players on the Vikings?
I just figured you didn't have him on here because at that point, I don't think Andrew Van Ginkel is better and more an impact top 20 player than Josh Metellus, than Jonathan Grenard. I just figured you weren't going to have him on here at that point.
I would have been surprised.
He played in 66% of snaps last year in 17 games, 29% of snaps in 17 games in 2022. I think there is some like untapped potential to a degree if he's going to be playing a lot more, but he's also 28 going on 29. I don't know. I think maybe this is premature and maybe I get burned as we watch Andrew Van Ginkel and that beautiful hair sack the quarterback a lot and just do a lot of other good things in coverage. I feel like this is a little premature.
Okay, there's some projection.
But off the list entirely?
Well, at this point,
that's a hotter take than putting him fifth.
6 through 10, for me, yes. Off the list entirely, I would say that Phil didn't do a good job.
Well, if he's fifth, like fifth to me is the hottest take that he is the best defensive player on this. That's a hotter take. That is the hotter take.
Both of them are hot takes.
Well, you guys can fight Pro Football Focus, and
both of them are hot takes.
And you can fight pass rush win rate, which has him above T.J. Watt, Joey Bosa, Dino Hunt. I'm not saying I would take him over Max Crosby. Right. I'm not saying I would take him over T.J. Watt healthy. Yeah, but I am saying that he is a better player than maybe like the back of the football card statistics suggest. And he is a perfect fit for what Brian Flores does in this system.
He would have been perfect.
That's why they signed
6 through 10.
What if I swap Van Ginkel and Aaron Jones? Which I thought about doing. That would have triggered Jed too, because he has like Addison an anti-Aaron Jones
I'm not anti, but it's my opinion that Jordan Addison is a more important player to this team than both. But we'll see.
Okay. Okay, let's buzz through the last four here. Number 4, T.J. Hawkinson. Okay. Now, before the injury, he was firmly atop, I think, the second tier of NFL tight ends, 960 yards in 15 games, well on his way to his first 1,000-yard season. I think like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, maybe like a healthy Mark Andrews would be that top tier. And then T.J. Hawkinson was like banging on the door, trying to get to the top tier, and then the injury kind of derailed him. I'll just give you the last 4, and then you guys can shout it out. Number 3, Brian O'Neill. Not quite the same player he was pre-Achilles, but still an excellent right tackle. And maybe this is kind of a body of work ranking in part, I will admit that. 6 really good seasons, high-end seasons as a franchise right tackle, and quietly one of the better right tackle careers in Vikings history. Like if we were to do like a Vikings right tackle Mount Rushmore, Brian O'Neill would for sure be on it.
God, that's football-y right there.
That's right, a right tackle Mount Rushmore. Yeah.
That's why I love this show. Tune in every day.
I could fight you. Like you could probably put. Hawkinson, not a great blocking tight end. So I don't know. Maybe I'd have him higher if he finished the season without the Achilles tear. Yeah. Number 2, Christian Darrisaw, by almost any measure, a top 5 left tackle in the NFL. PFF had him as the 3rd best pass blocking left tackle, only 2 pressures allowed per game. And then number 1, the best wide receiver in the National Football League, Justin Jefferson. Those are your top 20 current Vikings, according to me, anyways.
1 and 2, I think, are slam dunks right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Like number 3 is up for grabs.
3 and 4. I'm just trying to look through.
Oh, I could put Van Ginkel maybe 3.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Well, wait, shouldn't it be Justin Jefferson 2 and Van Ginkel 1?
It's like I bit into like a chili pepper that I wasn't expecting. One time, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever done as a kid. I was at a steakhouse. I was at Kincaid's in St. Paul, and I took a dollop of what I thought was mashed potatoes, and it was horseradish.
Oh. I love horseradish, but not a dollop. It ruined the steak for me, because if you take a whole bite of horseradish, your taste buds are screwed for the next 4 to 6 hours. That's what it felt like when I saw, I think, Van Ginkel as high as 5 to me.
You know what? I think for this to be eventually, and the 2024 Vikings aren't going to be, I don't think. But anyway, I think eventually for this to be a Super Bowl team, the fact that you don't have, and you're not wrong, a cornerback in that top 10 or top 5 is a real issue.
Yeah. Look, well, I'll buzz through just for the YouTube audience here. The highest ranked cornerback is Mekhi Blackman at 15.
That's
right?
an issue.
And there's only 2 cornerbacks on this list. Shaq Griffin may not even start,
Right.
depending on what happens in training camp. Yeah,
Right.
Caleb Evans. I think if I were to go out a little bit further, like honorable mentions, my guy Brandon Powell, Byron Murphy Jr. and a Caleb Evans, they were just rough.
Yeah, Byron
last
Murphy
year.
Jr. not being on there on this list at all is a definite issue, because we certainly a year ago thought top 20, like he's not top 10. Okay, that's not great.
Yeah.
But the fact that you didn't rank him is a real sort of red flag about what the expectations were and what the delivery has been.
He was the worst slot cornerback in the NFL in terms of yards per snap allowed. So it just wasn't good. But there we go. I know people are going to think I'm a hot take artist for putting Andrew Van Ginkel 5th. But again, some projection involved here. And he's also just a better player than people probably give him credit for the last couple of years in Miami. And versatility matters. I mean, the versatility is a main reason why Josh Metellus is 8th, and nobody fought me on that. So Josh Metellus being 8th
fans might.
is a sign of like what
fight
this
you.
system allows for players to do on that side of the ball.
Fans might fight you, man.
Bring it on.
that.
Bring it on.
Yeah,
Look, why don't you guys put your rankings? Email us your rankings through the feedback tab in the Score North app. We can flesh some of this out on Friday's Feedback Friday episode, or put your rankings in the YouTube comment section. But good stuff here, boys. We have Flagrant Howls coming out today. Trevor Plouffe Tuesdays on the Score North Twin Show, and the brand new Score North Twin Show YouTube channel, which you can find a link to on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We got Judd's Hockey Show, Royce Unchained. We're rocking and rolling here on Score North these days, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.